This was an anti-Nazi organization that wrote leaflets that got sent out to people in Germany. Sophie Scholl, her brother, and his friend were also members of the White Rose. Sophie Scholl was born in Forchenberg, Germany on May 9th. Sophie Scholl had 6 siblings and her big family. Sophie Scholl had a very family-oriented childhood. Her father, Robert, was the mayor of Forchenberg am Kocher. Her mother's name was Magdalene Scholl.
Hans Scholl was one brother out of 2 in her family. He was born on September 22, 1918. Hans is a part of the White Rose along with Sophie. Hans was also writing and handing out the leaflets to the people of Germany. Sophie's other brother was named Werner Scholl. He was born in 1922. Werner wasn't involved in the White Rose, but signed up for a membership in the volunteer corps of the Young Nation.
Inge Scholl was one of Sophie's other 2 sisters. Inge was born on August 11, 1917. Inge Scholl wrote a book about the Scholl family. Sophie had another sister named Elizabeth Hartnagel Scholl. Elizabeth was born in 1920. Elizabeth was the last of the siblings to Sophie and Hans Scholl. Sophie's last sister was named Thield Scholl. She was born
Sophie was raised being a Lutheran Christian and her life was relatively happy. In 1933, that was when Hitler came to power. He began controlling all the aspects of the German ways of life and what the Germans did. In the beginning of Hitler's takeover of Germany, Sophie was unaffected of any of his powers. Even though that Sophie wasn't harmed, her brothers and her dad were, as they were trying to protect young Sophie from the Nazi political criticism.
Sophie was a German student who was highly active in being a part of the White Rose while she was young. When Sophie was 12, she joined an unreal Nazi organization called the League of German Girls. In the beginning of her time being in this organization, she enjoyed doing the activities, and then she got promoted to be the head leader of the group. After being with the group for a while, she got uneasy about the activities and the things that they were. In 1935, numerous laws were passed which were about hate and discrimination against the Jews. These laws also meant that the Jews in Germany were banned from many public places. Sophie got really mad when 2 of her Jewish friends got hurt while trying out to join the League of German Girls.
Sophie was banned from reading from the Book of Psalms that was written by a Jewish author. Sophie was a rebellious young girl, so she rebelled to her being banned from reading a book. She rebelled by saying that the author of the book was an essential of learning the German literature. These actions led to more and more things being banned from the Jews while Hitler was overruling Germany. Now, Sophie was starting to choose her friends wisely and the ones who were politically sympathetic to Sophie's viewpoint on what was going on.
"1937 was a really hard year for Sophie Scholl. This was when her brothers and some of her friends were arrested for participating in the German youth movement. When her brothers and his friends got arrested, this made a big impact on her life. This incident made her want to stand up even more to Hitler and his regime. A few years later, in 1942, Sophie's dad got sent to prison for making a bad remark about Hitler. Her dad's remark referred to Hitler as a God's scourge.
In 1940, after the Second World War, Sophie graduated from her secondary school. Later after that graduation, she became a kindergarten school teacher at the Froebel Institute. But in 1941, she was forced into working as a nursery teacher in the Auxiliary War Service in Bloomsburg. Sophie didn't like this job and didn't like being around the war, so she decided to get involved with something else. After 6 months of working, she enrolled into another school called the University of Munich. She was majoring in biology and philosophy. The White Rose was a non-violent group who opposed war and the Nazis. This group was founded in 1942 by Hans Scholl, Willy Graf, and Christoph Probst. What the White Rose did was they wrote 6 leaflets and distributed them among the town of Munich in Germany. In the beginning, Sophie was unaware of the White Rose or how her brother partially created it, but once she found out that there was this group, she got involved right away. Sophie was the one who distributed the leaflets and carried important messages. She did this because since she was a woman, she would have less of a chance of getting stopped. February 18, 1943, Sophie and Hans delivered some pamphlets personally. Some of them were left and Sophie flung them around out of a suitcase while a custodian at the university watched them. The custodian called the police and they were taken into custody. Soon, other active members were arrested. Everyone that was active got brought in for interrogation. Sophie and Hans got questioned for 4 days and their trial was set for February 22nd. Sophie and Hans Scholl's trial was run by Roland Friesler, the head judge of the court. Sophie and Hans were convicted of treason and sentenced to death. Only hours later, the court carried out the sentence by beheading Sophie and Hans. Both of them received their deaths on February 22nd. Sophie's last words, reported by the person supervising the execution, were, "How can we expect righteousness to prevail when there is hardly anyone willing to give himself up individually to a righteous cause? Such a fine sunny day and I have to go, but what does my death matter, if through us thousands of people are awakened and stirred to action?"
Sophie and Hans Scholl made a huge impact on the German society, and to this day, they are still recognized.